Sky Striker innovations have been quite the interesting thing to track out here, and don't worry, there's some other interesting things out here that caught my attention, including stun. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We're going to be starting off here with a Ritual Beast list, and this is actually pretty interesting because this is the kind of stuff that I like to see kind of stepping on up here and challenging the meta. And you do see that we are playing double Ritual Steed in here. I feel like that's pretty normal at this point, especially, you know, when you need the power of steeds to kind of offset, you know, kind of the disturbing powers of the meta. You know, Year of the Fire has been very, very devastating for decks like this. Also, I mean, this deck only gets 2 dimension shifters to play. As much as I want to see this deck, you know, have access to more shifters and, you know, kind of help it out along the way, that doesn't seem to be the reality of the situation, unfortunately. You know, we're kind of forced to rely on, you know, the weird odd choices like the Book of Eclipse to kind of help us out. And actually, that is kind of interesting. This deck is playing 1 Book of Eclipse. Obviously, only double E-Telly, double Imperm. Yeah, some of these hand trap choices are a little bit weird, but I like the list. It's good. Next up is this Volcanic Horus pile, and we're playing double Parallel Exceed in here, which is definitely interesting. I like the idea that you can try out some of these relatively interesting, you know, ideas because of the Horus cards existing. You know, the Horus stuff gives you access to get all of these little volcanic cards filtered on through, and then you can start setting up these different options to allow you to kind of, you know, start punishing the opponent. Seems good to me. Also, you know, anytime that we can kind of sift through and, you know, make a free giant trainer, and then the giant trainer starts pushing down this advantage on your opponent, well, your opponent's going to go into one of these worse positions. It's amazing that just, you know, if you can see a deck like this start to gain all of this advantage and, you know, start setting up the 3,500 big boy coming on out here, it's going to be interesting. I know TCG budget players are molding at the fact that you do have to play the Sinful Spoils package in this, but it's kind of unfortunate. Alright, what else we got back here? So this is our stun variant, and this was very cool to actually see. Triple Border, the Triple Dyna, and the Double Banisher. Oh yes. OCG still does have Triple Card Demise. I know. I really wish we could have Triple Card Demise too, but that's fine. This deck is relying on Necro Valley to kind of, you know, put that pressure on your opponent. We've all seen how crazy, you know, their meta can be out here, especially, you know, in the Fire King matchup. If you can slap down that Necro Valley and start stealing the game away from your opponent, you can go into this, what I would consider a crazier advantage train, as when you do see that we do play one of the trap cards that allows you to pull the equip out of the deck and actually equip during the opponent's battle phase, which is actually hilarious to see. And I do see, of course, we are siding double shifter down there. Yes, the fact that we can play all of this little crazy stuff seems pretty good. I'm actually a big fan of this deck. And then we had this Vanquish Soul list that caught my attention from the same event as well. We're actually playing a Sinful Spoils package in here as well, so you can Snake Eyes Ash into what appears to be some free little value there. I honestly haven't seen any of these lists. No Vanquish Soul players out here have really tried the list, at least that I have seen so far. I mean, anything is highly possible out here in the realm of innovation, especially when players are trying out some of this stuff. And, you know, it gives you, honestly, a good chance just to see, you know, what can we mess around with in today's meta? You know, what kind of free things will we be able to steal? And also, another deck that can play Eradicator Epidemic Virus, actually naturally. Thank you, Dia Bellstar, for providing this deck a very interesting chance to kind of step on into the meta here and really just pose a very interesting question of, Vanquish Soul can actually do something. Now we're going to pass on over to another set of data. Next up is this very interesting Pure Snake Eyes deck that's actually playing the Quick Play spell card for the Monster Reborn for just the generic revivability. I believe you're playing this as the Quick Play option to set up this more punishing effect during the next turn for your opponent, especially, you know, when you've got an IP getting uncrystallized during the opponent's turn, or, you know, so forth, just to kind of put that pressure on your opponent. I think that really says a lot about, you know, the little oddities and things that you can mess around with out here. And also this build's getting the chance to play the subversion of the Snake Eyes stuff as well. Do not underestimate underestimate the random oddities that we actually can see out here with Snake Eyes, because this deck has proven itself to be able to take advantage of all of these very strange oddities. And especially for a tournament like this, just seeing that tech choice to quick play Monster Reborn, I actually am in love with the idea of that. Next up here, we had Purrely. Now, I want to say out here that OCG Purrely has not been having a good time whatsoever. This deck has been, as they put more and more limitations on it, which personally I think is a good thing to kind of check this deck and make sure, we don't really have to deal with the craziness of, unaffected towers. I love how the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes through these cycles of, they're like, oh, hey, it's okay to create this Towers-esque monster, but, you shift on around here and you're like, well, maybe not today. You do see that the OCG is still on the triple Purrely leap. This ensures that, you'll be able to recycle your resources, and also, still have something set off of the Nor every single turn, which is good. Now, you do see here that this deck is going towards dimensional shifters and, of course, dimensional fissures. You can think a lot of how the format has kind of headed into, I'm going to say maybe a more negative direction. Man, gotta love graveyard reliant decks. Next up here, we have, now this is going to be your Fire King Snake Eyes. This is what is known as the standard meta antagonizer out here. And I'll be honest with you, the double Fire King Island, that's pretty normal. One of the spell card to actually activate the Fire King Island, I've noticed the dramatic drop in that. Do keep in mind that, you play one draw in the main deck because you also have the one cross out to hit it if need be. And you also side the additional copies down here. So whatever situation, you're going to find yourself in, I feel like this deck tries to have answers for everything. And it's pretty interesting just to see how many bases you can actually have covered out here with just the sheer amount of toolbox that this deck has actually been able to kind of develop throughout most of the meta here. And the fire has been a crazy thing to watch actually develop, so good stuff for this. And then we had our first Sky Striker deck. Now this is interesting to me because this is a Snake Eyes Sky Striker deck, and I didn't really think anybody out here would be trying things like this, or even, considering this. But basically, you're using Flamber's Dragon, the Snake Eyes package, to set up for Link 2 pressure on your opponent while using the Sky Striker stuff. Basically, you're using these cards as board breakers, actually, to kind of do the thing. And I didn't think about that, considering, the Snake Eye stuff generates all of this crazy advantage, but you don't really take a second to go, hey, do we need to use this stuff in a way to kind of help us, edge into the meta here to allow us a chance to actually play the game? And I think this is actually interesting. Maybe we need to consider looking at this here in the future. I do see that, yeah, we do get to play the Scythe Lock down there. Yeah, that's, really wish we could do that too. Now we're going to jump on over here into another tournament here. This one actually had Sky Striker winning it as well, featuring triple Kaiser Coliseum, and I have been very brutally honest about this. I wish we could do this, but the sheer amount of ruling issues that Kaiser Coliseum causes in the meta doesn't really allow the card to come back. But if you wanted the chance to see Pure Striker actually do something, also this build's actually, sporting off the new Link 2 that they got for the board breaker. So that's actually really cool to see. Out of the same tournament, we also had this Rescue Ace Horus deck. And I have not seen a single soul out here trying Rescue Ace and Horus cards. I feel like we've seen the Horus cards in pretty much every other innovation of the deck out here, but now you can toss this in here and you get a free Giant Trainer, draw 3. It suddenly gives your deck this chance to go first and make this very threatening board against your opponent. I actually think that this is pretty interesting to see. Hey, look, more Snake Eyes. But this time we have the Horus package in here. Man, this Horus stuff is going about 1,000 miles an hour out here. With how many people are trying this out here, and they're like, hey, did you see what we can do with Horus this week? This is what happens when you reach the levels of splashability that Age of Overlord actually provided to the game. Good stuff, Konami. If you're allowing things like this to be playable, I can't wait to see what else is going to come. And then we have another standard Fire King build for you. And there's nothing wrong with standard Fire Kings. We have a 2/2 on the activation versus the island. You have 43 cards in here, triple bonfire, triple wanted. Only one Diabell Star, which is fine, still playing the cross out. I feel like at this point in time, cross out's just like the meta staple. And your side deck is just absolutely no fun allowed for the meta. So what do you guys think about these very interesting decks? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. See your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.